Welcome to The Explainer. Look, today we're taking all those everyday anxieties we feel about artificial intelligence, and we're going to transform them into a clear, solid understanding of what it actually is. We hear about AI constantly, right? But it's so often shrouded in mystery or honestly just pure panic. So today we're putting all that aside to look strictly at the facts and the mechanics of the technology. We want to give you a really grounded view of exactly where we are and where we're heading.
Hey, it is completely natural to feel uneasy when you hear the term AI. For a lot of us, our very first introduction to artificial intelligence was through cinematic villains from 90s movies. You know, The Terminator, The Matrix. But that fear isn't just stuck in fiction. Some of the absolutely most brilliant minds of our time, including the late physicist Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk, have openly sounded the alarm about the potential dangers of AI eventually rising up against human beings. So, that begs the question, should we actually be panicking? Well, let's dive into this by stripping away the fiction and looking directly at the facts, the math, and the very real timeline of this technology. We're going to separate those Hollywood dramatizations from the algorithms that are literally operating in your smartphone right now and approving bank loans, just to see if that fear is truly justified today.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. 1. Sci-fi myths versus reality. 2. How narrow AI works. 3. Real risks, like bias and black boxes. 4. The leap to superintelligence. And 5. Who controls the future. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Sci-fi myths versus reality. Let's see how those dramatic myths contrast with the highly specific, data-driven reality of the AI woven into our daily lives.
To truly grasp what AI is, we really have to understand how it differs from traditional computing. Now, a standard computer is incredible, right? It can multiply massive numbers in a fraction of a second. But it only follows exact, predefined instructions given by a human programmer. If a situation deviates even slightly from those instructions, it just fails. Artificial intelligence does something fundamentally new. It learns from data and recognizes patterns completely on its own. It can successfully handle situations we never explicitly taught it to handle.
Moving to Section 2, How Narrow AI Works. To see exactly how it recognizes those patterns, let's look at a really cool, everyday analogy, training an AI to recognize a bird. Think about it like this. To an AI, a bird is literally just a math problem. It assigns percentage weights to different features. So it might calculate that wings are 30%, a beak is 20%, and so on. If we show it a picture of a crow, it hits 100% and correctly identifies a bird. But what if we show it a penguin? Its wings look a lot like flippers, so the AI might score it low and say, nope, not a bird. But when we humans step in and correct it, the AI automatically adjusts those internal weight numbers. It learns that a perfect 100% isn't always necessary. It doesn't actually understand the concept of a bird like we do. It just tweaks its mathematical parameters over and over until it stops making mistakes.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that this bird-recognizing software is what we call narrow AI, or weak AI. Even after thousands of hours of training, it can only answer one single question. Is this a bird? It can't just suddenly decide to approve a mortgage or write a poem or drive a car. If you want it to tell you what kind of bird it is, you literally have to build and train an entirely new program from scratch. Almost all the AI operating in the world today, from ChatGPT to autonomous driving systems, falls strictly into this narrow category.
Now, you might be wondering, if the theory for this technology has been around for decades, why is narrow AI suddenly everywhere right now? Well, the answer is twofold. First, massive leaps in computer processing power. And second, you. Yeah. Every single time you tag a photo of your dog online or use slang in a public comment, you are providing the vast, incredibly nuanced data these systems desperately need to learn. Our collective digital footprint is the fuel that finally allowed AI to process informal human speech and recognize complex images. Which brings us to Section 3, Real Risks, Bias, and Black Boxes. Because this sudden explosion of automated training data brings us to the actual grounded risks we face right now, long before any sci-fi scenarios ever unfold. When an AI is trained on millions of images and messages, human programmers simply cannot hold its hand and do it manually. Software has to handle the training automatically. But this creates a massive issue called the black box problem. The internal weightings and parameters change so drastically and become so incredibly complex during training that, ironically, even the very developers who created the AI can't easily track how it arrives at a specific conclusion. And this story brilliantly illustrates the problem. An AI was trained to identify animals, but it kept misclassifying regular dogs as wolves. When researchers finally cracked open the black box to investigate what was going on, they discovered the AI wasn't looking at the animals at all. In the training data, almost all the pictures of wolves had snow in the background, so the AI simply learned that snow equals wolf. It completely fixated on the wrong pattern without anyone realizing it.
And because AI blindly follows historical data, it so easily absorbs our human flaws. In one real-world case, a company used an AI to screen job applications, and it heavily favored male applicants. Why? Because the historical hiring data it learned from had favored men. The AI inherited that bias automatically. It doesn't have a moral compass. It just mathematically holds up a mirror to our own history, replicating whatever patterns we feed it, completely lacking the awareness to self-correct.
Let's move on to Section 4, the leap to superintelligence. Having grounded ourselves in the very real, immediate limitations of narrow AI, we are perfectly primed to explore the highly debated, theoretical transition to the next levels of artificial intelligence.
If we look at the evolutionary arc of AI, today we are firmly in the narrow AI phase, but the next theoretical step is general AI, which could adapt, learn, and solve diverse problems much like a human mind. Experts debate this timeline a lot, estimating it could be anywhere from 20 to 50 years away. But the true concern lies even further down the timeline: artificial superintelligence. This is a speculative future where an AI becomes so smart it can actually design better versions of itself, triggering this exponential chain reaction of intelligence that far, far exceeds human limits. Now, to really understand this transition from narrow tools to superintelligence, we absolutely have to present a balanced view. On one hand, you have the alarmists. They point to the technological singularity, the idea that once an AI can endlessly self-improve, it could rapidly spiral way out of our control. But on the other hand, realists argue that this fear is just us projecting human flaws onto machines. Today's AI, and arguably future AI, completely lacks consciousness, self-awareness, or any sense of meaning. The desire for power and domination? Those are distinctly human traits. Even if an AI becomes vastly smarter than us, it's just processing immense calculations. It has no innate, biological desire to conquer humanity.
That balanced debate naturally leads us into our final section: who controls the future? If the AI itself lacks a biological desire to harm us, where does the real danger lie? Well, the most pressing risk we have to watch out for isn't the machine deciding to be evil. It's humans using these powerful tools for malicious purposes. We are already seeing AI being used to subtly manipulate public opinion and political ideologies. We're also seeing the rise of incredibly convincing deepfakes, where two AI systems essentially compete against each other, one generating a fake video and the other finding the flaws, until the result is nearly flawless and basically impossible for a human eye to detect. In the hands of fraudsters or bad actors, that is a profound danger.
0. That is the exact amount of regret an AI feels when it makes a disastrous mistake. None. It has no inner awareness of right or wrong. And what that means is the responsibility to monitor it, correct it, ensure we're using objective data, and safely deploy this technology rests entirely on our shoulders. We literally cannot pass the moral buck to the machine.
Just as society feared the loss of jobs with the introduction of electricity and early computers, we adapted. We created entirely new ways to work. AI is not inherently a villain waiting in the wings to replace you. However, it does leave us with one really vital question to ponder as we wrap up. Are you ready to adapt? Because while artificial intelligence itself might not take your job, a human who learns to use this powerful new tool effectively almost certainly will. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.